Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month.
And I want to give due respect for the omeletologist and the team over there. Give it up. They rock some great breakfast. I'm from New Orleans. I live in New York now. So whenever I get near some real grits, I'm ready for first, second, and third. Let me thank William Barnes. Give him a hand. I want to thank him for his leadership. William started his Urban League journey as a member of the National Urban League Young Professionals and is one of maybe about a dozen young professionals who at some point have transitioned to become Urban League CEOs, because it's been important to me that we transition a new generation of leadership, that we indicate that we love and respect our grandfathers and grandmothers and forefathers and foremothers who laid the foundation in civil rights. We got to stand on their shoulders and look ahead, not look behind us. We look behind for inspiration, but we look ahead for action. So let's give William another round of applause. And I want to thank the board of the Birmingham Urban League and give them a big hand. Thank them for their service. They serve as volunteers, and members of the staff of the Birmingham Urban League for the work that they're doing and for this important new work that is being undertaken to support people in this community who are challenged with housing. And I want to thank the staff for the work they're doing to stand that up and execute that. To the elected officials, the mayor was here, members of the council, members of the legislature, members of the county commission. Let me say this, because I served as an elected official for some 15 years. You are the progeny, we are as elected officials, the progeny of the civil rights movement. When our people waged their battle for what I call the Second American Revolution, which is what the civil rights movement was all about, we didn't have a single black elected official. Not in Texas, not in Louisiana, not in Mississippi, not in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee, North and South Carolina, and Virginia. Not a one. And how did our people have the courage and the conviction and the ability to topple what was almost a 100-year-old system of segregation? And part of the fight was so we could get the right to vote, so that we could elect people of our choice who were going to go to elected positions and not sit there and just be cute. And not just sit there and be an IG influencer. But they were going to go there and continue the fight. So I want to thank the elected officials. It's not easy to be in elected office. Many people have to have that job and another job, and then another hustle to make things go. So let's give all the elected officials a round of applause. And I want to cover a couple of things. First, an issue that is bubbling up all across the country that we have to pay attention to and we have to be bonded and unified about is this campaign of censorship of Black history. Y'all heard about this. Right-wing interests banning books by Toni Morrison, banning the autobiography of Malcolm X, banning books, and then a particular elected official who happens to be the governor of a particular state saying that Black history has no redeeming educational value. Hell no. We are not going to sit back and be silent while the story of the hard work and our experience in this country is disrespected or diminished, we're not going to be silent. Because if you go back, some of you all, my American history book didn't say anything about black history. Everything I learned was from the church. I learned from my mama, my daddy, my grandparents, and the community. Later, when I got to college, I was able to have a second major in African American studies. But growing up in the South, our history was diminished, suppressed, and not told. And now that we are beginning to tell it, we're not going back. And when these things surface in the legislature, they surface at school board meetings, we got to show up en masse and say no. So I wanted to address that because it's an issue. I think my staff did a report and said there were 450 books that have been banned. And that there were laws introduced in some 30 to 40 legislatures to ban the teaching of African American history. 2 years ago, and over the last decade, it's been voter suppression laws. Now it's to suppress our history. We have to stand up to this, and I know in Alabama can be on the cutting edge of this. We have to stand up to it. And we have to stand up to it morning, noon, night, day, and night. From can't see in the morning till can't see at night. We have to stand up to it. Second thing I want to just address is that the work of the Urban League has historically been in the lane of economic justice, job placement, and job creation. Helping people become home buyers and get a fair shake as renters and tenants. Helping our black business owners grow and thrive. Working to help young people do what is necessary and then have the resources to go to college. We've been in the economic lane. The economic lane and the social justice lane are intertwined. We may think of them separately, but why did we fight for the right to vote? Because the people that are elected make the rules. They make the rules by which banks operate. They distribute all the public dollars. They determine what university gets what money, what city gets what money, whose streets are repaired, whose water systems are upgraded, who's going to have money for parks and playgrounds. Elected officials control economics. Voting is not separate. Social justice issues are not separate from issues of economic justice. And so our movement today reminded that at the time of his untimely death in Memphis, Martin Luther King had just begun a new campaign. And that campaign was about economic justice. He went down to Memphis, and when he went down to Memphis, there were many who said, stay out of Memphis. It's a labor management dispute between the garbage company of the city and the garbage workers. He said, no, it's a justice issue. It's a justice issue. And he went down to Memphis to support, as we know, striking garbage workers But it was during the planning stages for what was going to be in the summer of 1968, a Poor People's March. And he had a vision to bring together black and white and Latino and Native American poor people to march on Washington for economic justice. So today, our economic standing is that in relative terms, we've made very little progress in 40 years, or 50 years since the Civil Rights Day. I want to contextualize relative. We're a caboose on the train. So do we have more black people who have higher incomes? Yes, we do. But relative to white America, the ratios haven't changed. Right? Do we have more black people that own businesses than even in the days of A.G. Gaston? The answer is yes, but relative to white America, the gap is wide. And I could cite, so we're a caboose on the train. The train goes faster, we go faster, but we're still in the caboose. Train slows down, we slow down. When the recession came, businesses closed down. 18% of white-owned businesses shut down. 42% of black-owned businesses shut down. So this is why fighting for economic justice goes hand in hand with social justice. And our movement today has to include activism, from Black Lives Matter to the NAACP to the Urban League to SCLC to organizations whose names might be well known, to elected officials who are African American, to elected officials who are not African American but who depend on African American votes to keep them in power. Our movement to business owners and business leaders. I had a conversation with the head of a consumer products company about a month ago, and this senior executive said, you know, he said 70% of the growth in our sales in the last 5 years have come from black and brown communities. 70%. You know what food item we over-index on the most in America? Anybody want to take a guess?
Chicken.
Huh? Chicken is the one answer. Okay. Keep on, keep on. Chicken's not right. We eating them this morning. Grits. We over-index. We buy more than 50% of the grits sold in America. Black people do. So, but you could look at other items where we over-index relative to our population. So businesses are dependent on our consumer power, and that gives us some impact and influence. But it doesn't give impact and influence. One, we don't know about it. Two, we don't talk about it. Because the people who know it and who benefit from it, they're like this. Right? Because we don't want to give anybody any ideas on how to use leverage. So in today's world, during this Black History Month and during these very demanding times, we have demanding times in this country. Tyree Nichols reminds us once again. Shooting at Michigan State University reminds us once again. The violence that occurs in the neighborhoods of Birmingham, or Montgomery, and New Orleans, or Atlanta reminds us once again how precarious life is and how challenged we can be. But a gathering like this morning also should remind us, teach us, and inspire us that we have work to do. And that we can't say someone else will do it. We have to do it. We have to continuously be in the fight to make life better for our people, our communities, and our children and children's children. And that's really the work and the challenge. So here in Birmingham, we're going to ask you to support the continued growth of the Birmingham Urban League, founded in 1967. We were not here in 63, we were not here in the 50s and 60s, we were not here, we were in many other places. But our history and our work here is to lift up this economic justice agenda, but to work closely with and advocate for the agenda for social justice as well. We can't have a voice around economic policy if we don't protect the right to vote. Right? We can't have a voice around economic policy if they suppress our history. We can't have a voice around economic policy if we don't understand how money works in this community and in this nation. So I'm honored to be here today. I'll be over at noon at the A.G. Gaston conference, a very, very legendary Birmingham resident, but a man of international importance in terms of what he did. So I'll be honored to do that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I've talked about this morning, but William, thank you very, very much for your leadership. I read the Birmingham Times every week. I'm a subscriber who subscribes to the Birmingham Times. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, it is a really good newspaper. I mean, and a lot of folks, I try to read I get about 20, 25 black newspapers, and I tell people, I walk in to my staff meeting and I said, did you know X, Y, Z? They're like, how'd you find that out? Where'd you know that from? I said, from the black newspaper in Los Angeles, the black newspaper in Birmingham, the black newspaper in the Carolinas. I read it in the black press. We have to support the black press. And we have to feed information on what we're doing to the black press, because they tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in our stories, right? So thank you very much. Good morning. God bless everyone. And I'll take any questions. I'll take some questions or conversations. I'll take a seat if you want to ask some questions. Yeah.
Do you know what's happening in Birmingham? Download the What's Happening Birmingham app today on Android, iPhone, and iPad for free. Get info on everything you need to know about local news, events, businesses, restaurants, and more. Visit our website, what'shappeningbham.com, or follow us on social media at HappeningBham for more information. Download the What's Happening Birmingham app today, your source for everything Birmingham.